I remember the smell of sandalwood and jasmine. For as long as I can remember, my childhood was wrapped in the heavy, suffocating smoke of incense. My family was deeply, fiercely Hindu. Devotion wasn't just something we practiced, it was the very air we breathed, the foundation of our identity, our reputation in the community. My father was a proud man, a man whose honor was tied directly to how closely we followed the traditions of our ancestors. I was the obedient daughter, the one who performed the rituals, who bowed before statues of stone and clay, who wore the bright colors and smiled for the relatives. But inside there was a vast echoing emptiness. I would look at the intricately carved idols in our home, adorned with gold and fresh flowers, and I would feel absolutely nothing. I would ask them questions, pouring my heart out as a young woman trying to find her place in the world. And I was met only with silence, a cold, unblinking silence. I didn't dare speak of this void to anyone. In our culture, questioning the faith of our fathers wasn't just a doubt, it was a betrayal. It was an insult to the family name. But the soul cannot be silenced by tradition. It hungers for truth, it starves without the light of its creator, and my soul was starving. My journey to Islam didn't happen overnight. It wasn't a sudden flash of lightning. It was the gentle, undeniable pull of the ocean tide. It started in university. Away from the watchful eyes of my relatives, I began to search. I wanted to understand the world, to understand God. I started researching Islam in secret. I remember the first time I heard the Quran being recited. I didn't speak a single word of Arabic, yet the tears flowed uncontrollably down my face. It was as if my soul recognized a language my mind had not yet learned. I opened an English translation with a mix of curiosity and fear, terrified that someone would walk in on me. But the moment my eyes fell upon the verses, something heavy shattered inside my chest. Say, He is Allah, who is one. Tawheed, the absolute uncompromising oneness of God. It was so pure, so logical, so overwhelmingly beautiful. There were no intermediaries, no statues to feed, no priests to appease, just the creation and the creator. I learned about the rights Islam gave to women, rights to inheritance, to property, to respect and dignity, long before the modern world ever spoke of such things. I saw the stark contrast between the heavy burdens of the dowry system in my culture and the honor of the Mahr in Islam. The more I read, the more the heavy chains of my past began to loosen. But with this newfound light came a terrifying shadow, the reality of what this would cost me. To choose Islam meant to choose a path that would tear my world apart. I knew my father. I knew the depth of his pride. For months, I lived a double life. I took my shahada alone, whispering the words in the dead of night, tears streaming down my face, feeling the weight of 1,000 lifetimes wash away. I was finally free. But in the eyes of my family, I was about to become dead to them. Living as a secret Muslim in a devout Hindu household is a slow, agonizing kind of torture. It is a constant state of hypervigilance. I would wait until the entire house was asleep, until the only sound was the distant traffic, to quietly slip out of bed. I would perform wudu in the bathroom, turning the faucet on just a trickle so the sound of splashing water wouldn't wake my mother. I didn't have a prayer mat. I used a clean towel. I didn't have a hijab. I wrapped a scarf I used for winter around my head, but when I placed my forehead on the floor in sujood, Allahu Akbar, the peace I felt in that dark, silent room was worth every ounce of fear. For the first time in my life, I wasn't speaking to stone. I was speaking to the Lord of the worlds, and he was listening, but the secrets grew heavier. The excuses for why I wouldn't eat meat sacrificed to idols, why I fasted during Ramadan while pretending I was just dieting. The breaking point was inevitable. I couldn't live a lie anymore. I loved Allah too much to hide him. I will never forget the day I told him. It was a Tuesday evening. The house was quiet. My mother was in the kitchen. My sister was reading on the couch, and my father was drinking his tea. My heart was beating so hard against my ribs, I thought they could hear it. I had rehearsed the words 1,000 times, praying for them to soften their hearts, begging Allah to give me courage. I stood in the center of the living room. "I have something to tell you," I said, my voice trembling when the words finally left my mouth. "I have accepted Islam. I am a Muslim." The reaction wasn't just anger, it was an explosion. My father's face contorted into something I had never seen. The teacup shattered against the floor. My mother began to wail, a horrific, gut-wrenching sound as if I had just been murdered right in front of her. My sister just stared at me, her eyes wide with a mixture of terror and disgust. The words that followed were like physical blows. "You have disgraced us," my father screamed, his voice raw with rage. "You are no longer my daughter. You are dead to us." I begged them. I fell to my knees crying, trying to explain the peace I had found, trying to tell them I was still the same Amina, that I loved them more now than ever because Islam taught me to revere my parents. But they couldn't hear me over the sound of their own shattered pride. Within an hour, my bags were packed and thrown out the front door. I stood on the sidewalk, the cold night air biting at my skin, watching the door slam shut. The finality of this sound echoed in my soul. I had nowhere to go, no bed to sleep in, no mother, no father, no sister. Just me, the sprawling, terrifying night sky, and Allah. But as I picked up my heavy bags, a strange, overwhelming sense of tranquility descended upon me. I was wrapped in the protective embrace of my Creator. The years that followed were a grueling test of Sabr. Patience isn't just waiting, it's surviving while keeping your faith intact. There were nights I cried until I couldn't breathe, missing my mother's touch, missing the laughter of my sister. I spent my first Eid completely alone in a tiny apartment, watching families celebrate together through my window, the ache of loneliness threatening to consume me. The shaitan whispers in those moments of isolation. "Was it worth it?" he asks. "Look at what you lost. You could have just pretended." But every time I opened the Quran, the answers were there. Do people think that they will be left alone because they say, "We believe and will not be tested"? I was being tested. Gold is tested in fire and faith is tested in the furnace of loss. I learned that when Allah takes something away from you, He replaces it with something far greater. If you endure. He gave me a new family in the Ummah. He gave me a strength I never knew I possessed. He gave me Himself. Despite the years of silence, the biological pull toward your mother and father never truly fades. Last year, the ache grew too strong. I decided to visit them. I didn't expect a warm welcome, but I hoped that time might have softened the edges of their anger. I hoped that seeing that I was safe and healthy, might spark a glimmer of the love we once shared. I wore a modest abaya and my hijab. I walked up the familiar driveway, my stomach tied in knots, memories of my childhood flooding back with every step. I knocked on the door. The door opened. It was my father. My mother stood just behind him in the hallway. For a split second, I saw it, the recognition in their eyes, the momentary flash of a parent seeing their child. But it vanished as quickly as it came, replaced by a cold, hardened wall of resentment as they looked at the fabric on my head. I opened my mouth to speak, "Baba, Mama." My father stepped forward, blocking my view of my mother. He didn't yell this time. His voice was low, devoid of any warmth, sharp as a blade. "Don't come home until you're Hindu again." I stood frozen. "Until you come back to being Hindu, don't bother coming back here again," he repeated, and then he shut the door. I heard the deadbolt slide into place, a heavy metallic click that sealed my fate. 30 seconds, that was all they gave me. 30 seconds on the doorstep of the house I grew up in before I was exiled once more into the street. I stood there staring at the wooden door, the wood grain blurring through my tears. The rejection cut deeper than the first time. It was a confirmation that their love was conditional, tied entirely to my submission to their beliefs. As I walked away from that house, wiping the tears from my face, a profound realization washed over me. I had lost my biological family, perhaps forever in this dunya, but I had not lost my way. Sabr is not the absence of pain. Sabr is feeling the unbearable weight of heartbreak and still choosing to say, Alhamdulillah. Praise be to Allah in all circumstances. If losing my family is the price I have to pay for the truth of La ilaha illallah, then it is a price I will pay 1,000 times over. Because the love of Allah is unconditional. He does not turn you away from His door. He does not give you 30 seconds and shut you out. His door is always open. To anyone walking this path, to every revert who has felt the crushing weight of family rejection, who has prayed alone in the dark, who has been told they are no longer welcome in their own homes, you are not alone. Your tears are known to the most merciful. Your sacrifice is recorded by angels. Hold on to your faith. The trials of this world are fleeting, but the promise of Allah is eternal. May He keep our hearts firm upon His religion, and may He reunite us all in the highest ranks of Jannah, where there are no closed doors and no broken hearts.